which I hope you have already, but we need to check out of your rooms. And lastly, you will see outside the signs, but I'm just reiterating it again. The buses leave to go into Amsterdam for our tour at 11:45. Production will be downstairs and they will be guiding you onto the buses, but the buses leave at 11:45. In the words of EasyJet, if you're late, we won't wait. No, we'll do the best we can, but we would appreciate your help with that for so we can make a speedy departure. Also, if any of you have to be back, I'll come to you in a second, Sarah. If any of you have to be back at the hotel before 4:20, please get in touch with production, Mendy, and they can arrange some transport for you. Sarah. You leave them here with a concierge services. That's already been arranged with production. Okay, and lastly, before we start opening the program, of course, there's a lot of organization that goes into a conference and a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes, especially with this conference. Something that you may not have noticed, but which is always here, which has been keeping us safe, is the security. And there are many, many men and women from Blue Security here in the Netherlands who have looked after us for the last couple of days, discreetly, quietly, but kept us in safety. So if you wouldn't mind, please put your hands together for Blue Security. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Now, moving on, it's my great pleasure to bring up a dear colleague of mine. A lot of you will know him already, Tal Rabina, who's our Director of Strategy and head of the EGA office in Israel, who's going to be opening the next discussion on fighting back in public advocacy, public engagement. Tal, please, the floor is yours, brother.
Thank you, Alex. Good morning, you all. As Alex said, we are welcoming you now to the panel Fighting Back Public Engagement, in which we will discuss effectively campaigning, networking, and building external relations for pro-Jewish and pro-Israel organization. And we want to make it practical. So just to make sure we are not wasting our time, please raise your hand if you think that it's a lost war. So maybe we don't need this panel. Who think that this is a lost war? Which means we should try to fight, right? Who think, as Regina says, we have to fight? We fight high. This was just a little check to see that you are awake. So thank you for that. And we really want to get practical. And we have, as you noticed already, 100 panelists, but great, really great 4 experts to share with us tools, methods, and their really great experience, because each and every one of them is a doer. And I would like to ask to the stage a very good friend of ours, first of all from the Netherlands. We are privileged to have Mr. Frank van Oord, the director of the Christians for Israel, the righteous, unique, and much appreciated friend of us. Is Frank here? Here he is, please. Please have a seat. From Germany, we get 2 in price of 1. The president of Honestly Concerned and the president of ILI, I like Israel, our very active friend, Sasha Swatsky. From the United Kingdom, we have a very dear friend, Alex Hearn, the Director of Labor Against Anti-Semitism. Alex was doing a great job changing the political arena in his country. And if you don't believe me, ask Jeremy Corbyn. We'll elaborate. Please, Alex. Last but not least, from Melilla Jewish community in Spain, we welcome the community president. So we have a president on the stage as well, Mordechai Vachnich. Welcome. And to assist with translation, we have with you our representative to Spain, our Juan Caldes, who will assist, please. So just that you will know what to ask, and I beg you, please, this is not a regular panel. Do it the Israeli way. Don't raise your hand, just ask the questions if you have, but one rule, don't talk more than 1 minute, okay? Because we really want to let everybody have the opportunity, if they really have a question or a remark, but not a speech, to share it with us, because we want to gain some practical tools out of this panel. By the way, not only you, we are limiting ourselves no more than 3 minutes each every time, okay? So again, agreed, the rule is 1 minute remark only, okay, not a speech. And so just for the sake of knowing who we are, who the experts are, I would like my esteemed colleagues to present their organization and also answer the first question, which is, what is the main challenge you are facing these very harsh days? Frank, would you care to begin?
Be here and sit here. Thank you. We are, as Christians for Israel, always busy to convert Christians to see that Israel and God has still got a plan and the fulfillment of his plan. So we always work in the overview that the end is good and Messiah will come. And that makes that everything we do is always focused on that, and that we, in the practice of every day, we see which battle we will fight. On the 7th of October, we came together in our office, as non-Jews that's possible on Shabbat. So we were there and discussing what to do right now, because we immediately understood that this was more than ever had happened before. And we started up that day 3 things. We started to have a YouTube channel with at least 3 times a week a news, to give the news from Israel, because we understand already a long time that media very often is anti-Israel and pro-Palestine. The second we started was that we gave our donors the possibility to give aid to Israel for the need that there would come. And the third, what we did was that we immediately made, within a week, a short introduction on Hamas and how dangerous Hamas is, because we understood that within a week it would happen that the world would make Hamas the victor and Israel the one who
will be accused.
So what we are always trying to do is to be proactive and to see which battle we will fight.
Thank you. Sasha, it seems that in such a 360-degree complex, you cannot just go and do something. You have to have a strategy. You have to gain all resources you can. You have to find the way to the share of minds of influencers and others. How do you do it?
Basically, one of the things I believe in is empowering people. I think there are different ways to empower them. And knowledge, as you mentioned, is very important, and a very important part of that. The work that I do is grassroots, with both my organizations. One organization, Honestly Concerned, combats anti-Semitism in all its forms. We've been active for over 20 years. ILI, I Like Israel, originally was aimed solely to publish about Israel beyond the conflict. And we organized an annual Israel Day nationwide. In the peak times, we had over 60 cities that were participating. Then we went on to organize Israel Congress, which is the direction that I'd actually like to focus on today. We had 200 or so supporting organizations and some 3,000 participants. Key here, and that's the one message I really want to get across today, and which I mentioned briefly yesterday. We are only a few on the one hand, and at the same time, we're being perceived as the Jewish world conspiracy. Now, the truth is, that's bullshit, of course. There are only a few of us. But together, nonetheless, we're very strong. And I think that is the message that we need to get across. And we need to empower with each other. We need to work with each other. We don't have to reinvent the wheel every single time. We can share amongst ourselves. We need to get ourselves hooked up, and we need to understand who our friends and allies are. And we do have friends, whether it's amongst the Kurdish community, whether it's amongst the Iranian exile community, whether it's amongst our Christian friends who are very important. And I have a very clear rule, by the way, because that was one of the biggest hurdles I had in terms of working with Jewish communities and our Jewish organizations, who always said to me, Christian organizations, they all want to missionize us. I have a clear rule. Those who respect me for being Jewish and are willing to let me be a Jew, I work with. Those who try to missionize me are not my partners. That's simple. But I can get into more.
Thank you.
You should send them to us, and we try to missionize them.
Talking about few, Mordechai, you are very important but relatively small community. How do you fight back?
Good morning, buenos días, Boker Tov. Soy Mordechai Wagnish, presidente de la Comunidad Israelita de Melilla, militar de carrera en el Ejército Español tras 27 años jubilado. Melilla, perdón, Mejilá.
Good morning, everyone. Boker Tov, buenos días. I'm Mordechai Wagnish, president of the Jewish community of Melilla in Spain. And professionally, Mordechai was in the Spanish military for 27 years, now retired.
Melilla es una ciudad española desde 1497, situada en África, haciendo frontera con Marruecos y el Mediterráneo.
For those of you who might not know, because it may be the first time that you're hearing the name of Melilla, Melilla is a city that has been Spanish since 1497, located in northern Africa, and sharing border with Morocco and located right next to the Mediterranean Sea.
En 12 kilómetros cuadrados hay 85.000 habitantes, el 60% árabes, el resto cristianos, hindú y gitano.
In a space of 12 square kilometer, there's a population of about 85,000 people. And out of that, 60% of it is Arab. And the rest is Christian, Hindu, Roma, and Jewish.
Los judíos en 1930 éramos 7.200, hoy apenas una comunidad de 650 judíos.
In the 1930s, the Jewish community was over 7,000 Jews, and now they roughly have 650.
Quisiera agradecer a la Asociación Judía Europea y en especial a su presidente la oportunidad que nos dan de hablar una comunidad pequeña.
Very, very grateful to be here today by the GA, in particular to the president, Rabbi Margolin, to be here with all of you.
Al Javier, mi amigo Juan Caldés, por el trabajo incansable por aumentar las comunidades pequeñas española en este gran proyecto que es la voz nuestra en Europa y sobre todo la gran responsabilidad de tenernos unidos.
And last but not least, my good friend Juan Caldes. Sorry, Ben.
Juan, we would like really to get very, very focal. How do you, as a small community, you mentioned 650 people, deal with the current situation in Spain? I know what he's whispering.
Ok. Somos una comunidad importante en España porque somos la comunidad más antigua después de la expulsión, con grandísimos retos que ahora voy a explicar.
For those who might not know as well, Melilla is the oldest Jewish community in Spain, millennial Jewish community, and there's quite a few challenges that I'm going to line out right now.
La ciudad de Melilla realmente la construyeron judíos que llegaron de Marruecos a mediados del siglo XIX.
From a historical perspective, the city was founded
Sí, mediados del siglo XIX.
in the 19th century by Moroccan Jews. We're
Juan,
going to the
Juan, I'm
tablets,
very,
right?
very sorry. We
No.
have to respect our
Yeah.
audience.
Sí.
So let's just be focused. And maybe just to give you a minute to translate, we'll go to Alex. And Alex, you really had a great campaign. I was giving a tip of it. This morning you have very good news as a Labour person about the new survey, but could you elaborate about the struggle you had in Labour against anti-Semitism?
So the campaign that we had, we are whistleblowers. We're about 60 to 80 people of councillors and party members and party supporters. And we blew the whistle on anti-Semitism coming from with our own camp, which is something that many people seem unwilling and unprepared to do. And if a tree falls in the forest, has it fallen at all? Well, yes, if you record it. So what we did is we forensically recorded cases of anti-Semitism, tens of thousands of cases, and then we delivered it to the Equalities and Human Rights Commission, which they used in their report on anti-Semitism in the Labour Party. So we used our tactics after October the 7th to start recording illegal activities and started recording cases and delivering it to counter-terrorism police and regular police to hold people accountable, not just the individuals who are breaking the law in this case, but also the authorities. Are they acting? We need consequences for anti-Semites within our own political parties, within our own countries, and we felt it was our responsibility to step up and do it with the tactics that we had learnt. And it's also quite useful to publicly shame people who will not respond, authorities who will not respond. And you continue to hold their feet to the fire. For us, our goal was to get the Labour Party to take anti-Semitism seriously. Now they've taken it seriously, but we will not stop holding their feet to the fire and holding them accountable if there are slip-ups and when there are slip-ups.
Thank you for that. And I would like to share with you what we as EGA are doing in this public diplomacy arena. If we can have the screen right there, it will be very, very short as promised. We have APA, which Rabbi Margolin established as our public diplomacy arm acting with the press. We have APA, which is Europe-Israel Press Association in this case, but we have also Europe-Israel Press Public Affairs that deals with politicians. And Rabbi Margolin just established, this guy does not sleep. So he has just established another organization in the States called AMEPA, which stands for American Middle East Press Association. And with this organization, we are doing the follows. If the slides will go on, it doesn't. We host a lot of journalists, tier one journalists from very leading media outlets throughout Europe and now the state as well, talking not only about the conflict, but about the contribution that Israel has to the world, to Europe, and of course, due to the circumstances, as you can see, we just had in March Israel at war or Israel multi-front security challenges, and we bring journalists and show them how it really is, see for their own eyes. We are not teaching, we are not preaching, we're just letting them realize the reality, and believe me, it works. Other than that, and as you can see, we take them boots on the ground to see, to meet family of the abductees, to the right side here, it's the widow of one of the kibbutz security guy that was fighting literally to save his home, and we take them to brief with senior Tzahal IDF officers. We also have, we are conducting briefs both online, as you can see, and in person. We bring those journalists, think tankers, people who has influence to hear Israeli and other experts, to ask the questions, and we tell everybody, ask the toughest questions you want. We want you to ask whatever you want in order for us to have the ability to answer everything. We do it in person, as I said, and we do it also online, which of course is much more efficient, but sometimes you do need the personal touch. Since 7th of October, as I'm sure you all were very alerted, since 7th of October, we have few WhatsApp groups that we are feeding, again, top journalists, tier one journalists, in this case, 393 journalists, but we have other groups, 24/7. We feed them with everything that is going on. And doing so, we became kind of a source of information to a lot of our friends in Europe. And it works because the first 2 or 3 days, they were just reading our messages. But from the 4th day until this very day, we are getting their questions, which means they are engaging with us. And I'm emphasizing it because this is something, ladies and gentlemen, each and every one of you can do, and much better than I can do it from Israel, because you know the people, you speak the language. I'm doing it in my lousy English, but you can do it in your language with the people you know, and you can see the effect. Okay, so this is a tool that it's just not for professionals or experts. This is a tool that each and every one of us can use to engage, and it doesn't only have to be journalists. You can do it with opinion leaders, with activists, whatever you do. So these are the activities, and
if I may,
yeah.
may jump in there briefly,
Of course.
like you said yesterday. The one thing I'd like to stress to you, I mean, many of you are from smaller communities. And when you hear this, Tal, talking about this, you'll think, you might think, or some of you might think, sounds all wonderful, but with my staff of 2 people, how am I going to do that? You know, I'm already overloaded. The key that I would like to stress is you don't have to reinvent every wheel. You don't have to do everything yourself. There are many organizations like us in different areas already doing things. Many of us are in networks. Whether I'm on Tal's list, whether I'm in another European group where we share across Europe. Within Germany, we have different groups. I have a separate group that I mentioned yesterday as well, where we deal with universities and students and their fears. So there are already many existing networks. And if you find out who's doing what, then you might just be able to use their materials. And likewise, when it comes to different topics, for example, Elon Musk, I know that you spent time with him. We did, together with many other organizations, and this is just a partial list of some of the logos, we did an international campaign saying combat anti-Semitism on Twitter. Now we have many of your community members feel, particularly in this time, feel very alone. And a lot of the activities that we are doing have, particularly when it comes to the hostages, for example, many of you know the Run for Their Lives campaigns that are taking place everywhere. Many of these activities, let's be honest, are not going to bring our hostages back home. That's the sad truth. However, we also need to strengthen our own. We need to give our own a chance to do things. And when they see, look, there are thousands of people in communities from small to large around the world running for, walking for our hostages, wearing red t-shirts, it strengthens us. So we have, we have twofold role. We have the role that Tal said, to the outside, to the media, where we're doing outreach and where we're empowering with knowledge. And we have to strengthen our own from within. And again, that's where unity can really play an important role. Sorry to.
I promise you an expert. Please go ahead.
The problem that we have at the moment is Hamas is loud and we are not loud. To get the people to really find out the truth that Israel was attacked in the 7th of October, we need to be loud. We need to really shout about it. We need to shout about it, and we are not doing that. What you've just said, excellent work. But we need to extravagate and make it louder that everybody hears it.
Great point. Frank, would you like to address?
Yeah, I think that's true, and that has to do also that we are a small group. We are not the many that are the shouters, but what we see that happen. There are a few things I want to say about it. First is that many people, as I know in the Netherlands, they are hating all these shouters. So the big majority is not liking this shouting group, but is hating it. That we see back in the elections. That's the first. The second is that we must really choose our battles because we are small. So we must choose where we are going to shout and to stand up. So we did sometimes a demonstration. We did one in the second week, so at the 12th of October, we did it in Amsterdam. And that was a very good demonstration. It was very positive, but also making a lot of noise and talking about the hostages. But 4 days later, there was a demonstration in Amsterdam where many more people, pro-Palestine, a lot of shouting, a lot of destroying of the things around. But we made our point first. And it was a good point. So we have to choose our battles and to see where we stand up and where we make this noise. And then we must do it always in the positive way. So not in the negative way in just shouting, but we must make our point. We are strong because we are spreading the truth. And speaking about the truth is always more difficult than telling lies, because you can't defend yourself against lies.
Alex?
Yeah, I agree that our biggest challenge is being outnumbered. We are talking about a vocal minority, but their minority is much, much bigger than us. So we need to be like Gideon's army. We need to be smart. And let's be honest, I think most of us recognize just how far behind we are. We're decades behind anti-Semitic thinking, which has been bubbling away. And we need to come to terms with that. We need to strategize and actually think how we can use what we have available to us. Understand that the Overton window, the window of discourse, has shifted. The norms have changed. Norms within academia and places like this have changed. The baseline for discussion is now much more against us. So we need to actually understand where most people are being influenced and how we can actually bring the conversation back to something more like a normal discourse where we can actually argue our corner, argue our case, and influence people in a more positive way. Because at the moment, let's face it, many of the discussions are not rational and the discourse is not acceptable. And we need to come together and work together as a community. And people have been talking about this. One of the first things that I did was to ring up all the community organizations in the UK that I could think of and just say, hi, we're Labour Against Anti-Semitism. We just wanted to say hello. Is there anything that we can do to help you? And can you help us in any way? And let's just talk. And when something happens, you know me and I know you, and we can have a chat. And it really is that simple, just a face-to-face conversation. And then we can start working together. But actually what needs to happen is we need some massive strategy for the whole community across worldwide, really, to work together and understand how we can build our case.
I think that if two Jews are talking of cooperation, the situation is really bad, huh? Mordechai, please.
Melilla es una comunidad muy pequeña, pero damos todos los servicios como una comunidad grande.
Melilla is a very, very small community, but at the same time, extremely powerful, as it does a lot.
Donde tenemos un grandísimo porcentaje de personas mayores, pero también muchos jóvenes y el único colegio privado solamente para judíos en toda España.
As for the challenges, just very quickly, that many of the communities around here, I'm sure that are experienced it. It's a very old community. It used to be a very young community, and many of the young people are now making aliyot.
Sobre todo nuestro grande reto es el económico, el intentar que vengan más judíos a Melilla. Por eso estamos llevando un programa a cabo para traer jubilados a Melilla, ya que es una ciudad idílica para vivir con los servicios comunitarios y los servicios propios del país de España.
I'm just going to jump in very quickly because there's a very good part outside of what he's saying that you guys should know, which is the incredible work, because I've seen it with my own eyes when I was in the community there, between the Jewish community, between the local Jewish community and the police forces. It is incredible because there's 24/7 security, 24/7 security outside of the 6 synagogues they have, outside of the Jewish school that they have in Melilla. And when there was an incident in October, for those who might not know, the police acted immediately and the government was right there for the community, which it doesn't happen in many countries. And that's something that I had to witness with my own eyes, and that's something that is true.
Somos un ejemplo de convivencia y en Melilla podemos ir tranquilamente con la kippah por la calle y toda la ciudadanía sabe cuando celebramos nuestras festividades, así como también intervenimos los medios de comunicación hablando de las festividades y los valores judíos.
From a positive side of things, if I may, because we also talk about very negative things, especially when we deal with anti-Semitism, but it's important to also offer solutions and good things that happen, because we tend to also just happen to see the negative things that happen. In this case, one thing that is very positive is that one can live a Jewish life in Melilla very openly, wearing your kippot, no problem whatsoever, no anti-Semitism on the streets. Not only that, every time that there's an event happening, the authorities are there on media, constantly speaking on media outlets and giving the opportunity to offer and to give the Jewish perspective, which does not happen in major regular media outlets.
Y eso lleva un gran trabajo con las diferentes comunidades, con reuniones periódicas, aunque siempre hay un pequeño grupo, un pequeño reducto de antisemitismo.
There's obviously a bit of anti-Semitism everywhere, as we all know, but outside of that, there's a strong, very strong local coordination from different actors, as opposed to in many other places.
Thank you. The gentleman over there, please.
Some very good things, but he waves all kinds of organizations. He waves all kinds of organizations, and I think that's a good thing. But there are so many organizations doing this and doing that. Maybe it's for, I talk to you, but it's more for the organization. Maybe it is a thing that there is a short list of all the organizations doing what and hand it out to the participants. Maybe that's one of
You're
the key things.
getting into an open door. It's a great idea, and we'll do it, and we'll try to share it. I would just like to emphasize two things upon what was just said. You know, the biggest reactor of the anti-Israeli campaign is the BDS. They are succeeding because they are working boots on the ground, everywhere, on every topic, with everything that is related and not related. And they are succeeding because they are doing, each and every organization, every branch, doing their own. Another remark I have before I'm going back to my colleagues, as I mentioned, Rabbi Margolin just established the American organization we are putting on. We've been there a month ago, and we went into the Israeli embassy in Washington, D.C., the most important embassy of Israel in the world, right? Ladies and gentlemen, it was hard to get in there because even just getting closer to the next street, it was a cacophonia, a chaos of noises, and it was kind of a siege that nobody can get into the embassy. And we get closer and closer, and indeed we saw that all the fences are with signs and tents and pictures of Palestinians. We were sure we are going to have to go through hundreds of people. You know what we found when we got to the place? 4 megaphones, 4 microphones, you know, these speakers that you go to demonstration. 4, okay? Again, 4 only, with the siren button on, okay? And 3 volunteers, pro-Palestinian volunteers, 2 of them, by the way, were Jewish. Really. So I'm telling you this story because you don't have to look for others. You don't have to search for this coalition. Of course, it is great. Of course, it is help. As Sasha said before, what we call the blue network, our blood network, okay? Unlike the red network of the enemy, whatever. Excuse my military language. The blue network has its own power, of course, but you can do so much with very, very little resources. It's just thinking out of the box and trying to do more. Sasha, please.
Let me add to you. Let me
No,
let
you
me
will
try.
get what
Let
you
me
ask.
try and
We'll
ask.
get together this list. We'll get
Let me
together.
try and answer a little bit to what you said specifically. One of the questions you actually asked us in the preparation was to talk klachtas about what we need.
Exactly.
And one of the important things is what you said is very true. The majority of communities out there and other organizations very often don't know who else is out there. A few years ago, one of our American sponsors asked me, said, you know, tell me about who's doing pro-Israel work in Germany. And back then I prepared a list for him, again, of some around 200 organizations or so, which kept on changing. Every year they change, of course. Throughout Corona, we lost a few organizations, and some of them actually became even enemies, and so on. It keeps developing. But the important thing is, some of us out there, and this is something that we need to develop further, there are existing networks. And there's no constant. In the past, very often it wasn't, at least in Germany, at one point we had an Israeli embassy that was doing networking coordination to a certain degree, and we had networking conferences every year, if not every couple of years. That's died down, doesn't exist anymore. Corona changed a lot of that. That's where I came in, of course, also with our conferences, trying to bring people together. And it's very important, by the way, to think on different levels, to think on a local level, who you can bring together, perhaps even just do a sit down with some 20 or 30 people who might be potential allies to find the common denominator. In our case, there are two common denominators. One is combating anti-Semitism in all its forms. The second one is solidarity with the state of Israel. Now, we're not going to agree. Don't try to agree when it comes to Israeli politics. I don't care whether or not somebody wants Netanyahu or doesn't want Netanyahu. That's not the issue. We stand for the solidarity with the state of Israel and the people in Israel, no matter who's in power. So try and find the common denominator, try and bring them together on a local level, try and bring them together on a state level, on a national level. Then look for who else is out there. And perhaps, again, Rabbi Margolin, this is something where EJA can work, develop further in terms of you already started doing the press lists, etc. There are, again, on the European level, etc., there are existing networks of GC4I. The Foreign Ministry at one point in Israel did a global coalition. They tried to do a global coalition of lawyers as well. All that, unfortunately, since every 4 years the government changes, everything changes, and we lose a lot of people and a lot of ideas get lost, but we need to get contingency in that. And again, that's where we come in terms of developing your lists, local, national, Europe, international, and tapping into the existing networks.
Thank you, Sasha. The lady over there, yes, please.
I think it was
Two ladies, okay, please.
Lea Flo, Mönchengladbach, Germany. Do you really think that it's the main job of the communities, of the Jewish communities, to fight against Semitism, anti-Semitism? Do you think that it's more the task and the job from the whole society? Do you really believe that we can resocialize anti-Semitism? Do you really believe that Jewish community has not enough work, religious, cultural, social? And what I yesterday heard from one man from Spain, that they can't criticize the government because they get money from the government. Is it from their consolidation usefulness?
Let us get the answers.
Yeah.
Okay, if you can please forward the microphone to the other lady over. Lepo, boi lepo. Laemza. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to say something, tell you something positive. Since the 7th of October, almost every week, fresh roses are put in the gate in front of our synagogue. Almost every week, fresh roses. And it's so encouraging. So I will give you that too, because that is existing too.
What a nice suggestion. Talking about faith, Frank, what would you answer, Lea?
Anti-Semitism has never been away, but what happened since 7th October is that the ghost came out of the bottle and we can't push it back. So now it has been common. You understand? We all understand. But that makes we can't be silent about it. But we must. I agree with you. We, as a Christian, as a Jew, we have our own community, our own things, but we have to stand up and fight it because there must be someone to fight it. And I'm very glad with my neighbor who stands up within the party and chooses the battles, because I think that is the thing. You have to choose the battle that you're fighting and to see the group that you can grab on, because there is this big majority who's not speaking out, and we must reach them, that they speak up. I was a teacher, I was in schools many years, and then you had this problem always of a child was just pushed out, yeah, and then there was in practice there was always one that was leading it, and what was the good trick as a teacher is not to handle these two first, but to handle the majority, to help against this one who was pushed out, to stand up and protect him. Because this one big majority, which is just be silent, we must waken them up and stand up.
This
And
is a
because
very
I think that is making it strong, and therefore everything we do must be focused on, not to reach the anti-Semites. We will not reach them, but we can reach the vast majority who is not speaking out.
great practical tool. And let's have, for the conclusion of this panel, because we have only 2 minutes, Alex, your most practical advice to our colleagues in the hall.
I think, well, first of all, I think your comments were quite right. Anti-Semitism does not originate from the Jewish community. We can't fix it alone. We need to work with other people, and they need to step up. And we can't target, as you said, we can't target the extremists, the people who are already gone. And I'd like to pay tribute to our non-Jewish brothers and sisters who don't have a horse in this race and who are supporting us and standing for us. They are really magnificent people. And I'd just like to say, what we really need is we need a goal. And we need to understand where we're going and work together to get there and pull back these decades where we have actually lost a lot of ground.
Thank you, Alex. Sasha?
Number one, anti-Semitism is not a Jewish job to fight, and I hate demonstrations against anti-Semitism which are being organized under the logo of a Jewish community. No. However, Jewish communities very often need to kick the others in the butt and get them to do it and support them. So big difference. Most practical advice, if you're looking for something, whether it's somebody tells you, yeah, but I need, what's the definition of anti-Semitism? Don't reinvent the wheel all the time. Look for what is out there. Hopefully we'll get some lists or whatever together on who you might be able to ask, and we will develop further in terms of building networks, but start locally and build from there, and always think twofold. Last thing, think internally. A lot of the things that you need to be doing is to strengthen your own, to make them feel as a community, to make them feel strong. And second, reach out, and together we are strong. The reason why I brought out all these printouts, and I will leave them lying around if you want to pick them up and just look at them, is if one organization publishes a statement against anti-Semitism, if one organization publishes a statement against the New York anti-Semitic articles in the New York Times, or their anti-Israel hatred in the New York Times, it will go down under and get ignored. If you suddenly have 30, 40, 50 international organizations publishing a statement with their logos, it's a completely different story. Together, we are strong.
Very, very good point to conclude this panel. I thank you very much for your participation. I'm thanking you very much, our expert, and we are here for you for any further questions. I'm sure my colleagues will be willing to share their experience with any specific questions you have. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Tel. Lively, engaging discussions. Before we move on to our next panel, freedom of religion, fighting back on freedom of religion, a very, very important issue for us as a European Jewish organization, association, and very, very important for all of us, for Jews everywhere. So we have a short video just to remind everyone what it is that we're talking about. Thank you.
What is special for Denmark is that by law in the Prismille you must have a authorized medical doctor present at the Prismille. What is lately happening is, however, that there are groups in society who search out these reports from the doctors and intimidate the doctors afterwards with public shaming and popularizing the doctor's name. And this is extremely intimidating for the doctor so far that more or less doctors can no longer be present at the Prismille. So very soon it should be expected that the Prismille can no longer be performed legally because no doctor is able to show up.
Today I would like to talk to you about the issue or the problem that we have with Brit Milah, with circumcision. Various political parties, including the Liberals, have brought it up on the agenda and they want to limit it or ban it. And this is an important cornerstone of our history and of who we are. So we must never allow it. Together with the EJA and Rabbi Margolin and his team, we must educate in Parliament. Now, another important point is, in general, the freedom of religion that we have is under threat. As you know, kosher meat is an issue in my country, especially in the regions of Flanders and Wallonia. But the extreme right in Belgium is now talking about even an import ban, which means that the Jewish community will not be able to eat kosher meat at all. We must never let this happen, and I will do everything I can to fight against this, hopefully with your support.
So without further ado, some of the Brits in the audience here might know our next moderator, and indeed some of you further afield, if you regularly listen to podcasts, as a great friend of the EGA. It's Mr. Johnny Gold. He's a TV and radio host. He appears on Talk TV regularly in the UK. And of course, he also has his own great podcast, which is called Johnny Gold's Jewish State. So I'd recommend, if you haven't listened to it, I would recommend very, very strongly to hear that podcast. Johnny is going to be leading the next discussion now on freedom of religion. Johnny, the floor is yours, sir.
Well, at least I didn't fall over walking up here, which is a good start. Very good morning to you. Thank you very much for that introduction. Thank you to all my friends, new and old, here at the European Jewish Association. I was really, the blood started rushing when I found out that every session here started with the terms fighting back. Because I'm sure you've experienced in your communities, as we have in London, in England, particularly in about the last 2 or 3 weeks, the tide is turning. We're sick and tired of the lack of leadership from our communities wider than the Jewish community. And so we have to empower and do it ourselves. There was a standoff with the, I don't know, what should we call them? The pro-Palestinian, the anti-Israel bunch, who dared to go towards our cinema in East Finchley. It's not our cinema, but they were showing the Nova Festival documentary. And so for the first time in a long time, we outnumbered them and shouted cheerio, cheerio, as we had to escort them back to their tube station, back to wherever they came from. So we feel empowered, but we shouldn't be complacent in that strength, because as Alex Hearn just said, we are massively outnumbered. We're massively outnumbered by the minority of people who make an awful noise. And so this session is called The Freedom of Religion, which on the surface should be a very simple one, that Jews should be allowed to have simchas, to slaughter their meat as they feel, to have Brit Milah and various other things. But it's more than that, isn't it? It's that if we're not allowed to do these things, where are we as a community within the wider environment? In other words, it's an existential threat to us being Jews when we are in a minority. And to that end, we have an amazing set of guests here on the sofas. They're nice sofas, aren't they? I'm looking forward to sleeping there a bit later on. I'm going to welcome them here, then I'm going to take my seat. Will you please welcome Chief Rabbi Binyamin Jacobs, the IPO Interprovincial Oper Rabbinat, an EJA Chair of Committee Against Anti-Semitism, the President of the Consistoire Central of Belgium, Philippe Markovich, Hélène Van Praag, the EJA's Jewish Leaders Vice Chairwoman on Equity and Diversity and President of IPO, the Jewish communities here in the Netherlands, and Father Manuel Enrique Barrios Prieto, the Secretary General of COMESE, the Catholic Church in the European Union. Will you please give our honored guests a warm welcome to the stage? Thank you very much indeed. And I just really wanted to start with you, Chief Rabbi Binyamin Jacobs. Is it as serious as my contention that if our sacred traditions, which, I don't know, the non-Jews should be used to by now, are taken away from us, are outlawed, are licensed, are prevented in some way, that it is a genuine existential threat to our future wherever they come from?
Indeed, I think it is very scary if we're very alert about it. If you look at Russian, there was forbidden Brit Milah and everything in the past. And you see the result was a very strong assimilation. So there is a threat. Of course, those who are very strong, they won't give in and do everything to do the Brit Milah and won't eat meat, whatever it is. But yes, especially for those people, Jewish people who are less strong in their religion, it is the beginning of assimilation.
The other issue is here, isn't it, that even Jews who are non-practicing, that people who have perhaps strayed away from the religion over a number of generations or within their own generation, it affects them too, doesn't it? Any sort of banning, because it does lead so obviously and clearly into anti-Jewish hate, the demonization of these practices.
Absolutely. If you, by example, the Shchita, you can have a discussion about it. Some people say it's not human and yes, human, whatever it is, a discussion. But the Brit Milah is much, much more difficult because then it's the integrity of the body. The child did not give permission. It's true, the child did not give permission. So to defend that is much more difficult. And although you always see people, even people not religious at all, that they stay Jewish, so they won't give in, but a very high percentage will say, okay, it's forbidden, we won't do it. And then it's a very sure way, direction, assimilation.
Can I welcome Philippe Markovich to the stage, President of the Consistoire Central of Belgium. I also want to thank at this stage Ruth Isaac for briefing me so well on this occasion. Belgium is made up of many territories, different languages, different traditions, different histories, some imported now very suddenly over the last few years. Kosher slaughter was banned in Flanders, but blocked in Brussels. We're told largely because of the Muslim community, but also we fought back as well. Just give us a kind of outline of the stresses and pressures on Jewish life in Belgium when it comes to this legislation.
Thank you very much. I think it's first of all a question of principle. We are Jew. We want to keep our tradition. We are survivor or children of survivor of the Shoah. And we want to continue our tradition and to give it to our children and grandchildren. But to keep the tradition, we need the support of the religious tradition, because if we have no more religious tradition in diaspora, we know it will not exist in 20, in 30, in 40 years. It's sure. So we need the religion and the tradition of the religion. Now in Belgium, we had a problem with the Shrita. We have it in Vlaanderen and in Wallonian, and today we are in the court in Strasbourg, and we are waiting the answer of the court in Strasbourg. We had also the problem about the Bris Milah. But for the moment, I say, it's okay. The Minister of Justice in Belgium make it okay. He asked me only to send a letter to all the community of my country, remember them, how important hygiene is with the Bris Milah. So I did it with pleasure, and the problem for the moment is closed. But it will come back certainly in a certain time. But I think the most important thing for me, it's a good life together with people of other religion. That's most important, because we need their support. You have to understand, the Jews are only a minority. Europe is of Christian tradition, and we need a strong participation of the Christian church also in all this matter, because it's very important. And in Belgium, we have special good relation with the Catholic and the Protestant people. It's very, very important for us. It's a priority. Cardinal de Kesel, the former Archbishop, and Luc ter Linden, who is the Archbishop of today, are personal friends. They came by us in the synagogue. It's very important to have close relation with them, and also with the Protestant and the Orthodox. With the Muslim people, we need also to have good relation. Why? We are together in the problem of the Shrita today. We are obliged to manage with them the situation. But on other point of view, we want to prove that the fighting between Israel and Hamas cannot have consequence by us in Europe. It's a fighting, and I understand that Muslim people support the Palestinians, it's their right, but in Europe, by us, we don't want any importation from the conflict. We want to live in security without an importation of the conflict. I support the state of Israel, absolutely, the future of my country, but of Israel, but I don't want that it come an importation of this conflict by us in Europe. They can support Palestinian, but they cannot support Hamas, because Hamas want one thing, not the protection of the Palestinian people, not. They want the destruction of Israel. And the destruction of Israel is impossible to accept for a Jew.
Thank you, Philippe. Strong words indeed, and we can all echo that here. You mentioned the relationship with the church, and the Catholic Church mentioned as well. It is our significant honor to welcome to the stage the Secretary General of COMECE, the Catholic Church in the European Union. Father Manuel Enrique Barrios Prieto is the official ambassador working with the Vatican within the European Union, and he has some very, very positive words, some encouraging words about the Catholic Church's view of Jewish traditions. Sir, don't you? This is why you're here today, and I think we all want to hear the good news coming out of the Catholic Church.
Yes, certainly. For me, it's a real honor being here. I'm Spanish, though I've lived many years in Italy, and I'm the Secretary General now of an entity called the Commission of the Bishops' Conferences of the European Union that gathers together the Bishops' Conferences of the European Union before and has this mission of having a dialogue, advocating before the European institutions. So in this work of ours that we do together, sometimes with other churches, sometimes with other religious communities, this issue of freedom of religion is really fundamental. And I think in this, we have to maybe go a bit beyond our main argument, our main theme, our main topic in this meeting, which is this anti-Semitism emergency that we see also in Europe and that really worries us after the 7 October attack. Because freedom of religion is more like a medium and long-term fight or struggle. We have to fight together, and I think together in the sense that we have to fight with others as well, as was said before, that freedom of religion is really respected. That people can live their religion freely, not only privately, but also institutionally and publicly. Because freedom of religion is a precondition of true freedom. And is based on the dignity that we have as humans. So I tell you this, as Jewish community, as Jewish communities in Europe, you will always find the Catholic Church by your side in the defense of freedom of religion and practices and religious practices. Because for us, it's really something that is fundamental. We see, we defend freedom of religion inside Europe and also outside Europe. We see that there is a backsliding in freedom of religion in Europe. We saw this very clearly with the corona crisis, with the corona pandemic. Religious practice was neglected, was put at the same level as other things, or even after other things. So we see that there is a backsliding. I think this backsliding in Europe is due mainly to religious illiteracy. So we have to fight together on this. This is my main message. I can speak a lot on freedom of religion because it's one of the main topics that we advocate for, some main topic of the work of Comice, but I'll leave it there for the moment.
Can I ask you a supplementary question? I think that does deserve a round of applause. I'm witness to words from the Catholic Church which are invigorated, they are new, they are extremely welcome. I thank you for them. I think we all thank you for them. Can you explain the sea change in the Catholic Church, perhaps over the last generation or two, that enables you as a senior diplomat, an ambassador in the Vatican, to be able to talk like this in a room full of Jewish people?
Well, I think there's been a major change in the church with the Second Vatican Council, with that document of Nostra Aetate, the relations of the church with other religions and other faiths. And then another document of the Vatican Council is the document on the dignity of the human person that talks and advocates for religious freedom. So I think that was a major change. That change came after the Shoah. That change made the church aware of its place in the world, I think, together with other religious communities. So I would say that's the church has become, in the last 70 years, maybe aware of its role, aware of its mistakes in the past. And I think that's more or less an answer to your question.
Thank you for those words. I'm going to spice this up with a nugget before we continue the conversation. Apparently, listen to this one. Do you know this? Poland exports more kosher meat to the world than any other European country. How about that? Who knew? They even export to Israel. It makes me laugh. But apparently, there have been anti-Semitic moves against ritual slaughter in Poland, particularly kashrus, because the Muslim community is so small. It is about Jewish ritual slaughter. Right-wing animal rights movements have tried to stop slaughter, but the Jewish community there, the European Jewish Association as well, our interventions here, and even the non-Jewish farmers in Poland have objected because, primarily for business reasons, they would lose their livestock and therefore their living would be curtailed. There were huge protests and it failed in Parliament, Hala Poland, finally. And Rabbi Binyamin Jacobs, it is like we say in English, whack-a-mole. You know, the head of a mole appears and you sort of whack them on the head. This is a constant battle, isn't it, against the kind of growing human rights movement. And this is something that Professor Gerald Steinberg has dedicated his life's career to. This is an extension of the perversion of the human rights industry, should we say, that has grown out of genuine attempts to create a new human rights movement after the Shoah.
A lot of remarks come in my head.
Yeah.
Number one, we are announced at the Fighting Back and freedom of religion. Now, I'm personally against freedom of religion. Why? Because where does it start and where does it end? If I today make here a new religion and you all like me because whatever it is, and I tell everybody what is our main principle, every lady, what we see in the street, we spit her in her face. Am I allowed to do like that? Is that allowed? How far can you go with freedom of religion? I think if it's complete freedom of religion, then it is you get exactly the opposite of freedom of religion. Like we see in some circles of the Islam, they call upon the people, it's a holy duty, a holy duty to fight Jews. Should we allow that? That is supposed to be a part of freedom of religion. So everything needs a border. If you don't have a border, then the freedom is exactly the opposite of freedom. That's number one. Yes, it's very, very complicated. We desperately need the help, the support of the Catholic Church. And I know that the Catholic Church is very clear in their position, not speaking about the past. From the time from the Nostra Aetate, there's a change in the Catholic Church, and they are supportive to Jews. The Protestant Church, I don't want to insult my dear friends from the Christians for Israel, is not that black-white at all. I get accused by the Christians that I'm too close with the Christians for Israel. And the Christians for Israel are feeling what means anti-Semitism because they are accused of to be too friendly with the Jews. So in the Protestant Church, it's not so clear at all what direction will they go. Hopefully, they will be support to Israel. But today, at least in Holland, it's exactly the other way around. More and more they go away from Israel. You have the Holy Land, but not the state of Israel. So, human rights, all those very nice things. The body, not everybody should touch it. It is a very complicated thing. You see today, there are many protesting, all kind of things, protests in the street against the climate, against pro-Palestine, but all the same people. All the same people. It was last week, there was a demonstration pro-Palestine in the neighborhood where one of my children is living. I had to take home my grandchildren earlier from school because I could not walk, and the demonstration was not against pro-Palestine, no, it was for the climate.
Yeah.
But if a Jew walks between the climate, it's a problem. What I want to emphasize is that we have to fight back, but how, I don't know exactly, but it's all depending on personal relationship. That's the main issue. Have contact. And once you have contact and you like each other, then you look how can we live together. If you don't walk, have no relationship, forget it.
Thank you for that, Rabbi. I tried to run my car without oil just because Greta Thunberg told me to, and it's just no good at all. You've got to keep using oil. Sorry, Greta. Ellen van Praag. Holland, being an Englishman, being a Briton, not an Englishman, I'm a Briton. You know, the English guys will know what I'm talking about. Ellen, this is an amazing country. The Netherlands is an amazing country. It is, I think it's, from a British point of view, it is the most Anglo of all European countries. William and Mary of Orange. I can almost understand Dutch when it's spoken. And it has an incredible Jewish community, which is resilient. And Sephardi, who knew? And Ashkenazi. Sephardi in number from the 15th century. And more recently, Ashkenazi, what has survived as well. Just give us a snapshot of where we are in terms of number here in the Netherlands, how the provincial communities beyond Amsterdam are, for example, in Rotterdam, Den Haag, Arnhem, Utrecht, and all the other places, you know. Tell us what's going on, Ellen.
Well, what's going on? Maybe it's not. I give a small example of my own heritage. I'm both Sephardic and Ashkenazi. So my ancestor came from either Portugal or Spain to Amsterdam in the 16th century. Like my Ashkenazi ancestry came from Germany, same period.
Can you just explain this unique relationship that Holland has with the Inquisition in 1492 and 1497? How did that happen?
Quite easily. In Amsterdam, Jews had a safe haven. As easy as that. And they were permitted to be Jews, like we want to be Jews. We don't want to be converted. We didn't want to be converted. And that's when it started in Amsterdam, like where we are now, or what we are going to see this afternoon. One of the most important synagogues, in my opinion, in the world, is in Amsterdam. It's the Synagoge. But having said that, it evolved eventually. There was always a divide between the Ashkenazi and the Sephardi, but there were also intermarriages. So it mixed. In the end, there were mixing. After the Holocaust, as everybody knows here, Holland was one of the countries that lost most of its Jewish population, as did our families, Dutch families, all did. We're small in numbers now. I think if you count all the Jews in Holland, I think we're about 35,000 Jews. But having said 35,000 Jews doesn't mean they're all religious. The majority is not religious. And in my opinion, that's our greatest threat, because religious is a binding factor. Again, going back to my youth, when I went to the synagogue, I met my friends there. My husband, I knew him since I was 10. That's where you had your relations, that's where you had your whole life evolved around the synagogue and Jewish organizations and everything. Nowadays, we face a great problem. In my communities, most of them, there are about 15 outside of Rotterdam, The Hague, and Amsterdam, most communities are really small. And then I'm talking about members really attending synagogues, are about, well, let's say between 30, 60, maybe 80, a few examples over 100. That's the numbers we're facing. And that's my worry, because we're not supposed to lose our religion. That's our backbone. That's where we come from. And we have to have that in order to maintain our Jewishness within and among the people of the earth.
And because you are small in number and really quite disparate, going back to the central part of the debate, and thank you very much for painting such a vivid picture of life in the Netherlands today for Jewish people. Ellen, how exposed are you to the, should we say, the hijacked human rights debate, the idea of Brit Milah being compromised by legislation, the pro-Palestinian hum, more than a hum, that's going on around all of our Western cities? What are you fighting here in Holland? What is the most prescient fight against delegitimization that the Dutch Jews face today?
I think at the moment the topic of Brit Milah and Shechita is a continuing problem, but it's now a little bit on the back burner because we get a different, probably we get a different government, and the parties that are working together in the new government seem, at least for now, to be pro-Jewish and pro-Israel. And I think that's a good thing for us as Jews in Holland. As far as the threat from Palestinians or people walking with the Palestinians, because they're so naive and they don't understand the real issue behind all these protests. Those are at the moment more threatening. Like Sunday, we have a shop in Utrecht. And last Sunday, there was a protest march for the Palestinians walking past our shop. Fortunately, we have a mayor that is really supportive. She knows us. So she placed 2 police officers in front of our shop to protect us if anything should happen. I'm not saying that 2 police officers would be of any use, but anyway, she's doing it anyway. The main problem for me, and I'm talking for me as a person, is the feeling of insecurity and the feeling of anxiety of what might happen to us as Jews in Holland. Do we have a future? Because if I look around me and I see a lot of young people, students, leaving, Dutch students, I mean, leaving Holland to Israel. And if this pace is going to continue, then we're dying out. And that's the end of the Jewish life in Holland.
Benjamin, you wanted to come in on that.
I
Thank you,
think
Alan.
we are focusing now on Brit Milah, Shechita. I don't think that's a problem. It's a result of a problem. The problem is, we're going later on to the Anne Frank house. I'm against Anne Frank. Who means I'm against Anne Frank? It makes think the world that all Jews were saved in Holland. The Germans tried to kill them. That's not true. It's the Dutch police who took the Jews from the house. 80% of my family and of Ellen's family are killed during the war. It was always the Dutch police that just joined, followed the easiest way. Professor Presser, an historian, he's after the war, he made research on what happened during the Holocaust in Holland. 5% of the Dutch were collaborating with the Nazis. 5% were fighting the Nazis. And 90% just saw and let it happen. And that's today again. What direction is going the crowd? And the crowd in Holland goes always in the easiest way, the easiest direction. And if then in that direction it's good to make Brit Milah against or Shechita, okay, so they take it. That is the danger. And on that we have to work, that the crowd comes, follows, goes in the right direction. At the moment, it's going the wrong direction.
Father, can I bring you in here, sir? We've all seen the nightmare of the campuses around the Western world, encampments, performative Palestinianism, whether it's actual Palestinian support or whether it's the trendy idea of whatever they think Palestine is, it's happening, and it is becoming a vehicle for Jew hate, for the minority of Jewish kids who are trying to embark on their 3 or 4 or 7-year academic study. I have ambitions to send my kids through tertiary education one day. I am fretting about putting them in any university. So from the Catholic point of view, what are you telling your young constituents about the Renaissance, the renewed idea of what Catholicism's relationship in the world is with other religions? What are you telling them about anti-Semitism and about cooperation with the next Jewish generation?
Yeah, this is a very very important question, and it's it'll be a bit long to answer, but I'll try to do it. But I wanted to go back, if I can, just a moment to what Rabbi said. 2 things I think he said are very important also from my point of view. One is that religious freedom is not an absolute right. I agree with this perfectly. I mean, if we absolutize religious freedom, it is right what he said, that one can read a scripture, his holy scriptures, and then go and kill people. So it's religious freedom is always a right that has to be balanced with other human rights. But said this, I think religious freedom is really, really important, because it is like a litmus test of the other rights. And I think we have to defend it also for our people that have practices that maybe we don't agree on them very much. Because if not, really we risk losing things that are important for our religion. This idea, for example, that we can put at the same level the welfare of animals with the practice of kosher meat is really not acceptable for a religious person. So I think very important this. And then on your question, I think we see these camps that are taking place in European universities. We see what is happening. We are in this anti-Semitism emergency, as we said. I think what we have to have clear as religious persons and religious communities, and also as Catholic Church, is, and I'm saying this more on a personal level, I think the Catholic Church has a very special relation with the Jewish community. So in some way we have to always try even in this difficult situation, to defend and be together with the Jewish community, be side by side.
How powerful is the Catholic Church in the under-21s? How's it going?
Well, I agree with what my colleague said here. I think Catholic Church is now in Europe, it's not as strong as it was some years ago. We're losing a lot of faithful. There's secularization. There's this big abuse crisis in the church. So we're not as strong. We're not as strong. And I think we're thinking a lot of what is going to be the future of the Catholic Church in Europe. There are not many vocations. Parishes are empty. The age of the population is growing. So we have to see. We have to see. Maybe we'll see a future of the church that is going to be quite different from what we see it now.
Let's hope it continues on the upward route that you've been talking so positively about. Ellen, you wanted to come in here.
Yes, I want to stress out something.
Yes.
You know, it's quite easy to dehumanize people. If you put "the" before a verb, like you say the Jews or the Catholic or the Gypsies or the homosexuals, you're dehumanizing the group of people. And it's so much easy. If you have it in a total group, you don't have to be responsible for the single person in the group. So if you stop calling people then you have a chance to reach out. We have to build bridges between the different faiths, like the Catholic Church, like Islam, like the Reform, whatever. We have to build bridges and stop using the word "the," because really dehumanizing a total group is so much easier. Start talking to your neighbor. Start talking to anyone who is willing to talk to you. And if he isn't willing to talk to you, you still have to try it.
Philippe, one of the big words that I've enjoyed hearing a lot this couple of days is tachlis, purpose, action. Let's get on with it. I take it that dialogue, which has been obviously a big part of this conversation and others, as Alex said in the last session, just picking up the phone. Hi, we're Labour Against Anti-Semitism. We're here if you need us. At least next time there's a problem, you know who we are. That's a massive part of your consistoire, isn't it? Of your leadership.
The dialogue is certainly very important and necessary, but I think the situation, tachlis, is not so difficult to manage. First, we need a strong state of Israel, but we need also a strong diaspora. Secondly, to have a strong diaspora, we need also that the other religions were strong. We cannot be the only one who are strong. We need that the other religions are strong. Or today, we have a problem in Europe. The people without religions have more and more power and influence, and sometimes against religion. And that's a problem. And we have to find a solution with them. We are respectful of people of other religion and of people without religions. But the people without religions have to be respectful to the Christian, to the Muslim, to the Catholics, to everybody. It's the same. It's a deal, and it's necessary today for the future of Europe. Because without respect for people of religion, it will be a very, very big problem. But not only for the Jew, for everybody who have a religion.
So remember, folks, it's tachlis, not broigus. Okay? So draw the line at tachlis. And now we're going to ask a few questions. We have a microphone, but I thought I'd come down like a host and do it myself. I've lost my bearings. Oh, here we are. Oh, you've got one. All right, I'm going back to the stage. She's prepared. Okay, ask away, please.
Hello, my name is Sarah Singer. I'm from Germany, and I'm the Vice President of the Central Welfare Organization of the Jews in Germany. So you may understand that we have a lot of work to do with the Catholic and the Protestants and everybody, nearly by day basis. And we are very proud of us to be with them and work with them so hard together. So just to remind you, Mr. Pietro, in 2006, we had the World Conference for the Youth Meeting in Cologne. Maybe you remember that. And 2 years before, they were asking me in Brussels, do you think it's possible that the Pope is going to get into the Jewish synagogue? I said, oh, well, that I was overwhelmed. Well, we talked to Rabbi Lau that time to Israel. He gave us a good advice, and he came. So this was a moment where everybody, all the youth people, we were all together outside. I mean, not everybody was in the synagogue, but they came in. The Vatican was in, the Pope was in, all the Jewry were in, the rabbis. It was enormous, and it has really an output. It was Johannes Paul II who intended it, and it was Paul Ratzinger who came in. So Benedictus XVI, and well, he didn't felt well very much as I saw it, but he was in there, and we've been all together. And this is the message what we have to support today. So maybe we have to do it again. Not really like this one, but maybe you have an idea, because you are the one who is in the from the Catholic Church, from the Vatican. So maybe that would be an idea that we all together, again, giving a positive sign of living together in our religion and respecting each other. This we have to support. And then we close down the mouth of these that they don't understand what they're doing.
I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. I think the first visit of the Pope to the synagogue was John Paul II in Rome. He visited the Great Synagogue of Rome. A big moment. He spoke, and maybe that has been a bit pre-thought about the Jewish people for us are our big brothers. And then again, Pope Benedict, as you said, Pope Francis also went to the synagogue. Obviously, I think we have to be together in many things. And give this sign to the people that we can be together and we can respect each other, and we can also advocate for the needs of the other. I think it's very important, for example, for the Catholic Church, what the Jewish community is doing in favor of the Christians that are persecuted in the Middle East and other places. So it's, I think we can do a lot of things together.
Who else has a question for our esteemed panel? I put myself right on the edge here, didn't I? Someone's got to have a question. Otherwise, I'll ask it and you'll regret it. Anyone? Do you want to ask a question? Okay.
I was trying to find it on the internet and I cannot. I remember I read the Catholic Church statement specifically on fundamental rights, cautious slaughter. I think it was in 2018. Actually, together with COMECE, we've done an event inside the European Parliament on the issue of fundamental rights, cautious slaughter, circumcision, and so forth. So I cannot find it online, that statement, but maybe you can reiterate. And just to also say that together with COMECE and Father Barrios, we are planning, after the new elections, basically, at the European Parliament, we're planning to do something similar.
That's
Thank you for
Ruth
your-
Isaac, by the way.
Yes. Thank you for your support always.
Pleasure. It's a pleasure and a duty.
Excellent. I'm going to ask the rabbi again here about the countering, shall we say, the forthcoming threats that are emerging in Europe. And we've seen a fight in Greece where the Supreme Court outlawed legislation in Parliament against ritual slaughter. But the noise of the human rights movement, you didn't ask permission of the cow, you didn't ask permission of the baby, all these kind of arguments. We've got to stun them before we slaughter them. But it's also important, is it not, to fight these things on Jewish terms, not just to coalesce around other alliances, because our particular kinds of ritual slaughter are not the same as in the Islamic tradition. For example, we can't eat halal, but they can eat kashrus.
Yes, of course, it's very important that you, first of all, we have to, it's the relationship. Yeah, how is your relation with the other? Because if you have good relations, you don't start talking about it. But at the same time, we also have to be, in a war, you have to get your ammunition, not when the enemy is already in front of the door. You think about it long time before. And then you have to think about when to shoot. If you shoot at the wrong time, you have a problem. Now, the new government in Holland, it was just mentioned before, yes, they're absolutely not anti-Semitic, not at all. Yeah, I know the four parties very well. With three of them, parties I'm WhatsApping, and we have very close relationships. They'll never do anything against us. But be careful. The Wilders party, what he is absolutely pro-Israel without any but. Yeah. But he's against Shrita. He is, because he was informed by somebody, a rabbi, and that rabbi thought that he does well in explaining that halal and Shrita is exactly the same. So he is against Shrita. We have to explain what it is. And, well, I don't explain you, but it's very easy to, let's say, if I say you all here in this hall, you're all very intelligent people. If not, you would not be here. Then you all know that the world famous Professor Strumpelmacher said like that and that. Then nobody dares to say who's Strumpelmacher, because I said you're intelligent and he's world famous. It's very easy to get people in a direction you wanted to think. That was happened in the Second World War. Goebbels was brilliant. He convinced the Germans that to kill Jews is ethical, a very good thing. And there's the main problem. People don't know what they're talking about. Yeah, and how do you say in English to stun? You get it's like to use the same term like in the hospital. The vaccination was like to calm it down. It's not like that. And the animal gets shot. In between 10 and 20%, it goes wrong, but the business has to go through so that the animal is still alive and gets cut into pieces while he's still alive. Number one. Number two, who tells me that he's dead? No, he's not dead, the animal, after the shooting. He is paralyzed. Who knows if he's still suffering, yes or no? Nobody knows. So we have to prepare ourselves also and know exactly what's going on to explain what it means stunning and because in the past I went to members of the parliament and explained them exactly, and none of them knew what's going on. So they're voting, you don't know really for what they're voting, because if you bring something in a very nice way and very convincing, then people, that is the 90% what can easily go in the wrong direction. Also members of parliament. And on that we have to work. On one side, we have to build a relationship, then they won't go against us. But on the other hand, we also have to prepare ourselves with knowledge and be able to explain what's going on.
That's a very difficult public discourse, particularly with the vegan and vegetarian debate that goes around. And these are very graphic discussions.
Yeah, I'm specialized in difficult things.
Yes, they're very this is a particularly maybe perhaps to a slightly select audience, that discussion.
Yes,
the legislators rather than social media.
Yeah, but if the people, the leadership, does not know themselves what's going on, then they never ever can convince their followers.
Absolutely, Father. What Rabbi Binyamin Jacobs said there is that there are aspects of a wide-ranging discussion, some of it difficult, unpalatable to some people. People's reaction is, ooh. And these are moments where anti-Semitism can creep into discourse. I presume in your discourse with the Jewish people and inside the Catholic Church itself, that when you're discussing these issues of cooperation about specific Jewish traditions, Brit Milah, ritual slaughter, that it's so easy to hear something that resorts or can lead to anti-Semitism, which you actually have to batten down. You must get that all the time, actually.
Yes, no, this happens, but I think what is really important, I understand the question that and the answer of the rabbi that maybe a distinction can be made, and obviously can be made between the way the kosher slaughter and the halal slaughter. So I think it's a good argument. But we as Catholic Church, we tackle the issue from another level. I think here the real question is the defense of religious freedom as such, so that a person can practice her religion freely. And if this means a way of slaughtering the animal, this is above any argument about the suffering of the animal or whatever. Religious freedom comes before, because it has to do with the human person.
We've got 4 minutes left of the session, so I'm going to ask each of our honored guests for a pithy 60 seconds to round up the discussion on the future of religious freedom in Europe, starting with the Rabbi, sir. What would you like to round off our discussion with?
We have to be very, very careful not to abuse the word freedom of religion. Because if you can use it for the better, but you also can use it for the worse, because some religions are telling to attack or to kill those who don't accept their religion. So freedom of religion, yes, but
Follow that, Philippe.
For me, the problem is very easy. I'm for freedom. I can be a very good Jew without being Shomer Shabbat. But the power of the religion didn't belong to the president of the consistoire. It belonged to the Rabbunim. The Rabbunim has the power in this matter, and only the Rabbunim.
Yeah, here we go. I said not Bruegges's. Ellen.
How can I beat this?
Yeah, follow that.
Well, you know, I'm proud to be Jewish. Let's all be proud to be Jewish.
Father, let's all be proud to be Jewish.
Yeah. Well, I would say going on this, because I'm not sure what to say, I think let's be proud of being religious as well. In a Europe that is going away from religion, and that is why it doesn't understand religious freedom. So let's be proud of being religious as well.
Powerful words in an increasingly secular world. I just want to say it's been an absolute honor to sit here with these distinguished guests and hear from them from every perspective possible. Chief Rabbi Binyamin Jacobs, thank you, sir. Philippe Markovich, Ellen Van Praag, and Father Manuel Enrique Barrios Prieto, thank you very much indeed for the session. I'm Johnny Gould.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are almost there. You are Johnny Gold. Indeed, you are Johnny Gold. Thank you so much.
Exit left.
Exit left. So, ladies and gentlemen, it comes to this, our last few minutes of the conference. But before we all get on our buses and go into Amsterdam, I need your indulgence for another minute or two. At the beginning of this, Rav Margolin was very clear. He said, look, we're here to talk about concrete actions that we can take to governments on behalf of each and every one of you here. So to that end, working last night, finishing it at 9:30 this morning before it started, taking on board what we have been discussing, we've come up with a resolution which is going to be put up on the screen now. I'm going to read through it, and I'd like to A, get your thoughts on it, and B, if you're happy with it, we'll take a vote by show of hands. Following that, we will then send that to all of the government and parliaments that you'll see at the bottom of the resolution. So if you can bear with me, I will read that out for you. We, Jewish leaders and communities present at the European Jewish Association Annual Conference in Amsterdam on this day, 4th of June 2024, following a vote, passed the following resolution. Given the record rises in anti-Semitism and the associated existential threat to Jewish lives in Europe, and given the lack of meaningful measures adopted by governments to date in dealing with the record rises and existential threat, urges the immediate establishment by European governments of an online reporting mechanism for the ongoing harassment of Jews and anti-Semitic threats suffered, and that this reporting mechanism be directly linked to law enforcement agencies for rapid response. Furthermore, urges comprehensive police officer training in identifying anti-Semitism, dealing with anti-Semitism, and arresting those that perpetrate anti-Semitic acts. Additionally, urges police departments to adopt a zero-tolerance attitude towards violent and/or intimidatory protests to include terrorist organization banners, flags, or insignia. Urges each European Public Prosecutor's Office to appoint a dedicated professional to deal with anti-Semitic complaints with a view to adopting much tougher responses to anti-Semitic incidents and establish a fast-track procedure towards prosecution. This was, before I go any further, this was work that was also undertaken in Brussels about a week before we met by some of our lawyers. We had assembled 13 lawyers from across Europe. Pascal Markovits was very much in the chair for that, including Jonathan Turner. I know some of you will know that name from the United Kingdom, from UK Lawyers for Israel. Furthermore, given the widespread adoption of the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism, bearing in mind that the adoption of the IHRA doesn't mean anything unless it's backed up by concrete measures, we urge national parliaments to enshrine in law the principles of the IHRA and establish the legal means to prosecute those in breach of those principles. I hope that's clear. So not only that the principles of the IHRA should become law, but they should also be prosecutable as well if they're in breach of a law. The EU is kind of moving in that direction, but we want them to go a bit further. We additionally ask national parliaments to include universities and colleges of higher education in the same body of law with a view to prohibiting and prosecuting anti-Semitic incitement as defined by the IHRA definition in classes, lectures, and activities on campus properties. Next, thank you. Something that we've been talking about as well. We accept that criticism of a democratically elected government is normal, but we note with great concern that the European High Representative Josep Borrell has demonstrated both before and leading up to and immediately after October the 7th, and via his spokesman, a gentleman called Peter Stano, a clear and repeated anti-Israel bias that has been a big, from our perspective, working in Brussels, a big contributory factor in the, sorry, I beg your pardon. I'm looking at it. I'm trying to catch myself. Ongoing. Thank you, Ruth. Ongoing anti-Semitism. I owe you one. Ongoing anti-Semitism and the vilification of the state of Israel as a whole in the European public space. We state that the High Representative Borrell has actively fostered a negative climate within the European Union External Action Service towards the state of Israel during his tenure, reminds the European Council and European Commission that the High Representative's role is contributory. What we mean by that is he is supposed to reflect the opinion of the 27 heads of government. And in fact, what he's been doing, I'll continue reading, sorry, and added that he's frequently embellished or added to adopted European Council positions on his own initiative, including open criticism of the European Commission President's stated support for Israel following the Hamas pogrom on October the 7th. I just want to remind everyone, in case you're not familiar with this. After October the 7th, Commission President Ursula von der Leyen took the step of beaming the Israeli flag onto the side of a Parliament building in the European Commission. She was more or less immediately condemned by Mr. Borrell for doing that. And there was a campaign of European staff, primarily EAS staff, who were very, very critical of that. So he clearly adopted a strongly partisan and political role. And we urged the European Council, in light of a significant damage to Europe and Israeli relations and his contributing to anti-Semitism, to properly vet the next High Representative and ensure that the position and reputation of the European External Action Service is not allowed to be exploited and manipulated for partisan purposes, as it was under High Representative Borrell. We put that there because, of course, many of you will be aware, you've seen the election posters all over the place. Coming up in the next couple of days, we have European election. Josep Borrell's position is up for re-election. And we want to really remind the European Commission the importance of the role of the High Representative, and not to allow it to be manipulated. Conference calls on the European Jewish Association, we're all European Jewish Association, to send this resolution to all European national parliaments and governments, all European special envoys for combating anti-Semitism, and the presidents of the European Council and European Commission. So I put that at the bottom. It's a bit presumptive. It has not been passed. However, Pascal, please.
Perhaps we can add also to send it to the President of the European Parliament.
With pleasure.
That is different from the European Council and the European Commission. So it's just to add the President of the European Council and of the European Commission and European Parliament.
Okay. Thank you. We'll make sure that happens. I notice the chairman of the European Jewish Association, Rav Margolin. Yes, if there are any other comments from the floor. Ellen, language-wise? Typos. I'm fully aware, and I do. It's not going to go straight away. I did preface this and say at 9:30 in the morning to reflect. It will be, of course, tidied up, spell checked, T's crossed, I's dotted, commas.
John McGee is adding the importance of the freedom of religion, which is the
Liberté de religion.
Absolutely right.
Okay. It'll be, yes, please, sir. Thank you.
I just discussed with my neighbor who's from
Madrid.
Spain.
Yeah.
If you send this to the parliament members of Spanish parliament, they won't read it because it's on the Spanish.
Oh no, it goes without saying. Actually, Mr. Mergui quite rightly pointed out to me earlier on that it will be translated into French and the operative languages. Indeed, because otherwise it'll just go on completely understood, sir. Anti-Semitic slogans. Okay. Mevrouw.
I would like to say something as well. I fully agree with everything which is on this sheet. It's perfect, I think. But I'm missing the following. Yesterday morning, you said we need. Yes, you need. I need.
Well, one second. We go around with microphones now, so everybody will be able to respond. Thank you. Please.
I will repeat.
No,
Does it
it's
work?
not on.
It does on.
It does work. You just have to turn it on.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes,
There
it
we go.
works. Good. I will repeat the thing already said to you. I think everything which is on this sheet is okay. It's all direction upwards, you could say, to the EU, to national governments. Perfect, necessary. But I missed something.
Okay.
Yesterday morning, you said we don't need words, we need actions. And we are representatives of all Jewish communities, and we could try to find subjects in which we can cooperate. And I don't see anything on that. Just going downwards instead of upwards. What sort of actions could be described related to the Dutch and the other Jewish communities in which we can cooperate? What could be the subjects? And what sort of process are you going to lead in order to come to a success so that we can achieve successes next year in Madrid? We can say we have done such and such and such, and we achieved that sort of goals within the Jewish communities. That's what I'm missing at the moment.
Okay. I can deal with that. I'm sure there are. Just let me deal with that. This resolution is geared for exactly the people that you were saying at the top. Okay. When it comes to how we can work on it together, of course, that would be separate. That's much more of a Jewish advocacy, and we will be, of course, doing that because the resolution forms effectively the bulk of our work, and we will be developing strategies with communities to bring those the points in the resolution forward. So sorry, please.
It could be added by adding a zero tolerance policy. I think that's the main thing that's a translation from kind of a policy into action.
Right. Thank you.
One second. You have, excuse me, just for the hour, and then we come to you. So.
Good morning. In the case of Spain, we have 17 different and small parliament between the country. It could be good if we can send it also to the region of Catalonia, Madrid, Basque Country, Valencia, and things like this.
So we're fortunate enough, as you know, I'm sure you had the opportunity to meet Mr. Juan Caldes. So we'll make sure that not only he translates it properly into Spanish, but he takes care and deals with it, as you say, for all the regional parts of Spain. I believe Leah, sorry, Actualité Juive. And then we have Dr. Flo at the end of the table. Sorry, if the journalists can keep your hand up. There we go. Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask you if you couldn't start your resolution by asking to all our representatives to start their speech about Israel and the Middle East by asking the liberation of the hostages.
Very good point. Hostages. Okay.
Any other remarks?
It's a good point. Thank you.
To Ms. Flo. She's coming with the microphone.
What about I think
One second.
everybody can hear me.
No, they take the microphone.
What about the definition of Jewish anti-Semitism? Or it's just a problem in our own family? Just to think it over. And I would like to get this resolution, of course, also in German, that we can send it to Bundestag and to many Landtags in each in Germany.
Okay.
And it's very, very good. And thank you for everything, what you do in these 2 days. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Leah. Okay, we have...
Again, Mrs. Excuse me, Mrs. Jacobs, the first one.
And we got the back. Sorry, we're going to keep you fit. Yeah. So just the lady at the, and then I see your hand up, so don't worry.
Is the EGA, sorry?
Yes, a bit closer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is the EGA
do they have the capacity to say, we want to bring this Borrell, we wanted to bring him to court for this anti-Semitism, or anybody else?
Politicians have.
Sorry?
Politicians have the support, the legal support that.
So I'm saying, can EGA do anything?
Legally, it's not happening.
Legal, okay, that's my question.
Unfortunately. Yeah.
And
Yeah, I think the last remark.
from the gentleman at the back of the room there with his hand up. Thank you.
Thank you. The Parliament in the United Kingdom is currently dissolved.
Right.
We've got an election coming up very shortly. There'll be a lot of new MPs. Can I just check with you that you won't be sending this motion out soon, or that if you are, you actually, in terms of the United Kingdom, you just wait until the new Parliament is in place so that you can send it to all of the new members?
So it's, I think what the short answer, sir, is both. So if we are in an election period, I mean, I still think the resolution is worth sending. I'm not sure if what's going to happen after the elections. Of course, we'll wait and see. But of course, it will be forwarded to the new government as a means of introducing the European Jewish Association to the new government. We will be outlining them, and outlining our work, what we do, seeking meetings with our representatives there in London, and of course presenting them with a resolution which B'ezrat Hashem will be approved by this conference. Yes.
I'm looking for a more strong formulation. A majority. I hope it won't be a majority. Maybe better, the greatest possible majority or whatever.
We could of course change that to unanimously, which is
If it will be the case.
if it will be the case, of course. But we wouldn't want to preempt the outcome. We are a democracy. We're not Hamas.
So let's vote.
Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, all those in favor of a motion, please raise your hands. Anyone against? So I think we can say unanimously. Ladies and gentlemen, before I give the floor to Rabbi Menachem Margolin to formally close the conference, I would just like to make one small announcement because they're slowly driving me nuts, and the transport team. Just so you know, once we do get onto the buses at 11:45, for those of you who do need to go to the airport a little bit earlier, I'm told that from the Jewish Cultural Quarter, buses 1, 2, and 3 are the buses that you need to get on to get back to the airport a bit earlier. Okay, so buses 1, 2, and 3, once we've concluded Portuguese synagogue and walked around, those are your buses for the few people that need to get back earlier. It's been an absolute pleasure, as always, to see so many wonderful people, some dear friends, and some new acquaintances, which hopefully we'll have for life going forwards. I'm going to leave the final words to Rabbi Margolin, but from my own personal point of view, it's been a pleasure meeting every single one of you the last couple of days. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you very much, Alex. You did a tremendous job as always. It's also the right opportunity to thank deeply the entire team of EJA who came from all around Europe to be with us today and organize this conference. A big thank you to the president of the Consistoire of Paris and the president of the EJA Council of Jewish Leaders, Dr. Joel Mergui. Thank you for all your support and dedication. I kindly ask you to apologize to some of you colleagues and friends who wanted to register to the conference, and we had to tell them that there is no space anymore. We saw a lot of interest. Thanks God, those who have been with us since 10 years could see how we doubled the activities and the number of communities join this conference. It's only show us the importance of the unity, the importance of gathering together to discuss these major challenges. I would like to deeply, deeply thank each one of you, not just for being in this conference, but for all the great and dedicated works that you do in your communities. It's highly appreciated. It is very much needed, as you all know. And we wish, as we always say, despite the fact that we will continue to fight back, but for millenniums, we will always conclude our holidays with these words, Leshana Haba b'Yerushalayim. May we see peace in our land and all among us in the Jewish communities. Thank you very much, and wishing you now a very